As an active member of the PC Master Race, I have accumulated many games on my Steam account over the years, and I probably haven't even played at least half of them. My main source of most of these games is the Humble Bundle, because they occasionally give out games for free, and if I see a game I want in their monthly subscription service, I'll subscribe for the month, which also gives me access to a whole bunch of games I didn't intend to buy. So I think it's finally time that I explore them, and hopefully this will become a series on my channel, because creating full video reviews on video games is kind of exhausting. I have to play the entire game, maybe replay it or review the footage, and then write the script, which is a pretty big chore, and it takes up a lot of hard drive space if the game is really long, and if I'm not particularly enjoying the game, that'll make the experience a whole lot more insufferable. So I just want to maybe play a game for 2 or 3 hours and give my initial thoughts on them, and maybe even find something new to enjoy. So let's get into the first episode of what I like to call Steam Cleaning. Ah, freak, Alpharad already used that name 3 years ago. Okay, Steam Revision? Yeah, let's just go with that. You know the game that Leafy here would commonly play in his commentary videos other than CSGO Surf? Oh, his channel's gone. Well, it doesn't matter if I have footage or not because it objectively happened. But one of these games Leafy would use in his videos was called A Story About My Uncle, and while I thought the game looked fun, I've never actually tried to get it. But one day it was just free on Humble Bundle, so I just claimed it and never got back to it. Probably because Leafy was dead at that point, so I hadn't seen his epic gameplay to reinvigorate my crush for the game. And because this was a game I'd been planning to play for years now, I thought I'd finally get to it for this series. A Story About My Uncle follows the story of a father telling his daughter the story about the disappearance about his uncle. I said about 3 times in that one sentence. The game kicks off with a younger version of the father walking into his uncle's house. Obviously the man from Uncle ain't there, but he discovers that his uncle had created an adventure suit just for him. So he puts it on and somehow accidentally gets transported into another world. Yep, A Story About My Uncle is actually an isekai. We learn how to use the jump mechanics and finally unlock a power core that gives the player access to 1 grapple per air maneuver? Per jump? Per air session? I think you get the idea. The grapple device also leaves a mark on the area where it attaches to, which serves as a pretty neat purpose in both the story and gameplay. Also, I'm gonna refer to the game character as me just to make things easier. I don't want to call him the father anymore. Okay, so continuing. Because my uncle has already been to this world, that means there are already markings there, which easily explains how I'm planning to track him down. Gameplay wise, this easily guides the player through what's basically an empty world. I think it probably would have been a lot harder to navigate through a handful of segments during the latter part of the game if it weren't for these symbols, which allows the world to feel a lot more natural and chaotic without confusing me on where to go. Eventually I picked up a second power core, allowing me to use the grapple twice in a row before landing, so now I can do cooler and more complex parkouring. But look! What's this? Another living being? It's a freaking frog girl, ladies and gentlemen. It's Froggy 2.0. Look at those feet and hands and froggy facial structures. It's kinda gross. And the poor graphics for this game doesn't help either. Now, I don't have a big issue with the graphics because the game is indie, so it's fair enough that they can't afford HD 4K Bayhem, especially in 2014. But the introduction of another character does also bring light to another issue I had with the game that annoyed me a little more, which is the voice acting and audio quality.
I bet you can get there easily with your suit thing.
I think it's pretty clear at this point that the game was made somewhere that's not the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or America. The developers are from Sweden. Oh, look, they also made a horror DLC for Goat Simulator. But because they're in Sweden, I'm just gonna take a guess and say it was difficult finding good English voice actors. Most of the voice actors here also have a pretty small filmography as well, so maybe they're just inexperienced? I don't know, maybe it is because English is their second language, so it didn't come out too great. But at the same time, 90% of the Swedish population speaks English. I don't know, maybe I should stop talking. My point is that the voice acting isn't too good, and the audio likes to pick up a lot of the saliva sounds.
If you ask me.
It's kinda gross. Honestly though, the story itself isn't anything too special either. I was never too engaged, and it was kinda simple and cliched. There are some themes about having to improve as a society and not leaving the people who are important to you behind, but those messages are pretty surface level, and I feel like the latter even contradicts itself. Although apparently the story is a little more complex if you look at all the small details and stuff in the world, so maybe I'm wrong about that. The gameplay is probably the strongest element of the game. There's a buttery smooth difficulty curve, and it's all done by increasing the number of times you can use the grapple and the addition of the jet boots.
The boots! Look! Couldn't you wear those?
With this addition, the suit felt at least 20% cooler.
Whoo boy! A Story About My Uncle was written by Bronies. But if you play this game, you get what you see. It's a simple platformer with a neat grapple mechanic that should keep you busy for a bit. It's only 2 hours long, so don't expect this to be something you come back to often. I do think the game is kinda overpriced, so I probably wouldn't have played it if I didn't get it for free. Moving on to the second game I played, which was Superhot Mind Control Delete. I actually had no idea this game existed until it randomly popped up in my Steam library. For some odd reason, if you already own the original Superhot, you get Mind Control Delete for free. But in a way, that kinda makes sense. Superhot Mind Control Delete is literally the exact same as the original Superhot. Time only moves when you move, and you gotta take out all the baddies. It's a little less linear since there are branching pathways for whatever reason, but gameplay wise it's the same. Each level consists of multiple stages, and if you die you'll have to start from the beginning of the level, so the game is a lot more challenging. But to make sure the game is a little more fair, you get 3 health points shared across the entire level. And as you play through the levels, you can also pick between random hacks. These give you perks like gaining an extra heart or starting every stage with a katana, which is literally the most overpowered weapon in the game, by the way. Honestly, I didn't really enjoy this one. Like I said, it's pretty much the same game, and the hacks only apply for one level, so it's not like you grow more powerful as the game progresses. Maybe you unlock more hacks later on? Unfortunately, I just wasn't engaged enough to finish the game. The story even barely progresses. All you really do is kill this guy at the end of each level, and just a bunch of bodies pile up. Great freaking story, guys. You'd also think that playing a game like Superhot would give you super cool replays, but the replays are honestly awful. It plays back way too fast, so you can't really comprehend what's happening, and it's always been an issue with Superhot in general. I think I had enough of Superhot once I finished the original game, and this sequel is simply just more content that we never even needed. The game just doesn't distinguish itself from the original Superhot enough to warrant its existence, and I guess that's why it's free with the original Superhot, because in terms of gameplay, it doesn't do anything new except for adding in some minor gameplay elements, having a new story with a slightly restructured progression system, and what's basically some temporary upgrades that you can use, so it could really just be like DLC or something. So yeah, that's basically why I find it like more of an extension to the original game than anything. Now, for our final game, I'll be looking at a game called Fury, a melee combat and bullet hell hybrid kind of game. I got this game through the monthly Humble Bundle when I subscribed for Rise of the Tomb Raider. And oh shoot, Shadow of the Tomb Raider is on here too? Well, that sucks because I can't buy this game without DLC on Steam anymore, so they can force you to pay more money. So yeah, I definitely would have bought the Humble Bundle subscription for that. Fury is basically like a boss rush. You play as a prisoner who I think is unnamed until the final boss where they reveal his origins, but otherwise you just try escape a prison by fighting bosses. Like I said, it's a mix between melee combat and bullet hell, which I find pretty neat. The controls are not at all complicated in any way, so it's very easy to get into, but the boss design is what really makes the game difficult, and each boss's unique fighting styles keep the game fresh. One boss may specialize in melee attacks and have a large variety of moves to choose from, while another has only a few, but his unpredictability is what makes him dangerous. Because this is an indie game, the graphics and animation are kinda poop. But its beautiful art style definitely makes up for it, and how characters and projectiles look and animate help you determine what attack is coming next. But that's not all you'll need to finish the game. The game is pretty tough on your first playthrough, so you'll also rely on a lot of trial and error. If a boss defeats you, you won't need to restart the entire boss, but you'll have to redo the current phase the boss is on. Well, that is, if you have some lives left. Don't stress too much though, as each phase you overcome will reward you with an extra life if you've lost any, so if you die once per phase, you're doing pretty good. And while I don't have anything against trial and error in video games, in this game it is pretty stressful to restart an entire boss for making a tiny mistake, so in some areas of the game I think they could have communicated some information to us a little clearer. I probably struggled with being confused the most with this boss. Here she erects a bunch of towers generating a shield, so I have to destroy those towers. Issue is the game didn't tell me the towers were there, and I was too busy defending myself from the attacks to notice the electricity on the top right of the screen. Thankfully I had a friend watching me play who had played Fury before, and he told me what to do. There's a similar issue at the end of the boss where she has an orange shield around her. Apparently it means I can't shoot her, but I can melee her. I didn't know that though, and I was at 1 health, but thankfully my friend just told me what I had to do. I also had 1 life left, so imagine if I just died then and there. It would have been frustrating as hell to restart from the beginning from that tiny mistake. The story in this game is also pretty neat. It's simple, but it's pretty concise and clear. Ultimately, it's a story of freedom. For each one of us has the capacity, no matter our backgrounds, to do good. And no matter the trials we go through, no matter the wrong we do, we get back up and improve. Because this is America. And the story ends on a pretty bittersweet ending that raises more questions than answers, but from there you can discover a secret final boss that wraps up things perfectly. I would love to talk about this even more, but I don't want to spoil it because I actually highly recommend this game. It's a tightly woven 5-hour experience with a lot of replay value, as you can replay the game on a harder difficulty and fight this beefed up robot that basically is a combination of all the bosses. Just be careful though when you get halfway through the game and the female tries to seduce you. Do not entertain her advances. She's not a bad person or anything, but the game just ends. Like, it's just a happy ending, and you're only halfway through it. And this would be fine if the game, actually let you continue off from before the ending, but nah. You have to replay the first half of the game again before you play the second half. I was able to find a save file uploaded online though from just before the mid-ending, but that also means that my stats and rankings are all messed up. I didn't finish this game in 3 hours and 43 minutes, I did it in 5 hours. So that's all the time I have for today. I hope that I can make more videos like this because honestly, I don't want to buy $90 AAA games and make reviews on them, especially when I don't have the time or PC power to play them. So taking a look at these smaller unplayed games I have on Steam makes the video production process a lot easier. But anyways, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like these, you can press the little subscribe button if you haven't already. But yeah, other than that, I hope I'll be seeing you guys in my next video.